All right, Benji. So a lot of short form creators are making tons of money through brand deals. My question for you is, with the potential upside through social media content creation, what is going to motivate people to go on YouTube and create long form content when there's so much money being made through short form?
Yeah, this question I'm assuming is related to something we talked about a couple of days ago, which is that you coach a lot of creators, right? And you have one that recently hit it big in the last month or so, right? And was it all in short form deal?
Yes, all short form.
Yeah.
Yeah, the quick answer to that is it won't motivate them because if it's lucrative, why would they stop?
Yeah.
Most creators, they don't.
Yeah.
This is why they get stuck. When they start realizing they're on this hamster wheel and they get burnt out, that's when they're like, I need to do something different.
Yeah.
I've never seen so many creators burn out from one type of business model or form of content than short form creators. Because as quickly as creators became full-time influencers, they also had more competition, which kept raising the bar. So in the beginning, it was mind-blowing to do 2 or 3 pieces of content per day. And then, a friend of mine, Matt, he said famously when he was kind of mentoring other creators getting into space during the pandemic, 3 to 5 per day.
Yeah.
He said for 6 months.
That's what he did, right?
That's what he actually did. But then he went back to something more sustainable,
Yeah.
right? 1 to 2 a day. But now it's almost a requirement to do 5 to 10 a day. Now, some creators are like, oh, that's crazy. But right now, what I'm observing with the ones that are like the Matts of old, right? The new creators, they're doing 5 to 10 a day. Now, they're not all going viral. They're not all the same level of production, but volume is so important that they're just doing whatever they can. And
that burns them out then at that point is what you're saying.
Well, yeah. I mean, going back to the question, if it's so lucrative, they're getting opportunities, right?
Yeah.
Because they're in front of people. That's what's kind of interesting about short form. When you go to Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, there's only one spot. There's only one Shorts.
Oh, yeah.
There's only one
Reels. When you literally open the app, there's just one thing in front of you.
So it is cutthroat competition to get that spot.
Yeah.
But volume helps get you that spot. Because people go on there so many times. To answer the question, Cameron, they get motivated to try something different when what they're working on is not sustainable.
I think one of the things that you brought up, and maybe you can speak to this more about what your level of interest is in coming to this, which is this person in particular that you're referencing is interested in YouTube, right? And that was the perplexing thing to you. This person is super successful. They're making tons of money right now. It's not like in the past they're making tons of money. Right now they're making tons of money, but they're still interested in YouTube. Does that fairly characterize what you were going for, Cameron?
Yeah, and the thing that I was curious about is with this person making the amount of money that they're making on short form content already, what is it about other platforms that are appealing to them to make them think that that's something worth pursuing versus just sticking to what's already working for them?
I can tell you one thing, which is I've gotten the privilege to hang around with Benji and this creator a bunch. And one of the things that I remember this person saying was, number one, kind of a tale as old as time with creators, which is that diversification is a really good thing in general, right? And I think a lot of creators right now think of that as I'm going to post on TikTok, I'm going to post on Instagram, I'm going to post on YouTube Shorts, right? Or Facebook Reels or whatever you want to say, right? And there's some truth to that, right? You think about the TikTok ban recently, and it's geez, if you were just posting to TikTok and for some reason not syndicating your stuff over to Instagram for whatever reason, well, you could have been totally wiped out. Your career could have been over in that moment, right? But I think that the interesting thing that this person brought up that I hadn't thought about before is that it's also good to have diversification in terms of type of content, because you never know when short form might just be a passing fad. I mean, we're kind of already seeing that, right? Or you never might know when the next big format is coming. And like, so having diversification when it comes to the content itself is one of the reasons why that I remember them saying that is why they were interested in long form.
Well, what you're just talking about is the natural evolution of content creation.
Yeah,
So
on any platform.
it's not just this creator, but so many short form creators. What they're finding is they're at the tail end of short form. So the thing is, just as quickly as short form can help you go viral and become a full-time creator and create literally a new creator economy, it can also see the downside earlier. Now, this is kind of crazy to say when there's creators making 6 figures in a month and there's millionaires and there's these really famous people that everybody wants to be like. It just happened in a shorter amount of time. But the evolution, kind of the arc, is always the same.
Yeah.
Like you said, there's something people are doing that people are watching. The people doing it is just a small group of nerds or early adopters,
Yeah.
or just people are passionate just for the pureness of the art. Okay. And then there's the people that are watching this content and then it starts growing. Well, what happens? Brand deals usually is like the first signal, like, oh, that's worth doing something.
Yeah.
You know, like that's worth getting into. So in my day, when my wife was doing beauty videos, it was free makeup.
Yeah.
Right? So for her, in her specific niche, is like free products. By the way, that was all niches: tech, food, whatever. You're getting free products, you're getting deals, and then you start getting sponsorships. Anyways, then other people want to do that, right? They're like, oh, you're going to get paid to do what you love. And then it starts being competitive. And what happens when there's more competition? Well, then it requires you to do more than the other people competing against you, whether it's new creators coming into space or old creators, right? Or your colleagues, whatever. And then it kind of hits a plateau because the demand isn't enough for how many people. And this has happened. I mean, like you could say, like,
they call that saturation. It's saturated, basically.
it's saturated, okay? But then once everybody, both the viewers and the creators, are putting their attention there, there's always something else in the background. And it's funny. Remember those people I told you about? The nerds, the early adopters, the purists? They're somewhere else playing in another sandbox.
Yeah.
And that's the beginning of a new era. But that sandbox is only as lucrative as the people starting to watch it. What's funny about saturation, right, of content and creators is the people watching that content, what do they always want? They want something new and novel. And that other sandbox, that's where it is.
I never thought about it that way. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's
it's kind of like you have this little culture of something that's happening over here, and by definition, because it's different, it will always be new and novel.
You see it in everything. Okay,
Yeah.
Fashion. Okay, once everyone's wearing
that's
that
true.
thing, nobody really think it's cool. Definitely not the purists,
Yeah.
right? You know, the people that create the fashion, they're always weirdos wearing the flashy pink furry thing.
Yeah.
When nobody think about runway models. Okay,
I was just thinking
Okay,
about that,
they're
yeah.
like crazy stuff, but what happens is there's elements of it that become mainstream fashion. That's all cool. I've always wanted to know who those people are, and I want to know what they're doing. Okay, so let's talk about that new sandbox, right? Same thing happens. All the viewers like, have you seen what's going on in this sandbox? Yeah, there's this like really cool like castle maker over there. It's like, oh really? But we're already watching this thing. It's like, no, this is way better. It's different. It's this and that. Okay, so the viewers start going over there. They're watching these new sandcastles being made by these new. They call them new, right?
Yeah.
Or innovators.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're from the original sandbox,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes they're completely new.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, they're the kids. It
I was
sounds
thinking
really
that too.
weird.
No, you're right.
But it's, I mean, it's
I know
funny.
the story you told me about your first time on Instagram. I feel like that's a good story to tell about it.
My philosophy, I learned this when I was working at a like youth center. I ran like a teen department where kids would come in and play pool and I cook for the kids or whatever. My boss during that time said, hey, if you want to know what's going to be significant in the next decade, listen to the kids that are going to be the ones to define it. And so ever since then, right, because this guy, his name's JJ Frank, he always kind of knew what was cool with the kids and he would always embrace what they were doing and support what they're doing. So the kids would always come to our events, to our department, whatever. So same thing here. in my industry, creator economy, social media, just content creation, I'd always listen to the younger crowd. So because I had that connection with this youth, right? I was still really young. One of the early kids that worked with me, he told me to sign up for Instagram. I was like, what's that? It's like, and
this is when Facebook was cool.
Wait, 2012, right?
Yeah.
Facebook. And I said, hey, I'm on Facebook. I've got this many
Yeah,
followers.
why would I
and
need
of course,
another?
I'm
Yeah.
like doing YouTube full time. I know Facebook's dead. That's what they said to me. And I was like, oh, really? Facebook said? And that's like maybe the first time I'm like, am I getting older? Like this thing that I think is cool has died. And he's like, you need to sign up for Instagram. That was in 2012.
Wow.
And I remember my very first post was, I can still remember it was pistachios
Okay.
and a coffee. I should look back at what that is. And it was just so random. But I was like, I'm going to listen to this kid. He was 100% right. It's Chris.
Oh.
And now I've done brand deals. I've become an influencer on
Yeah.
Instagram. And it's only helped. That proved what my old mentor told me is like, listen to the new generation.
Yeah.
So that's been the case with all the other platforms afterwards. And then even you, I hired you when you're young. That was a strategic move too,
Yeah.
because you were telling me what you and your friends were into, like
Yeah.
the type of content. And so I always listened to that, and it's helped my wife and I sustain a level of success and be relevant, even though there's been all these cycles. Okay, let's go back to it, right? Going all the way back to the original question about why would short form creators want long form? They're seeing another sandbox, and they're seeing that there's more gold in that sandbox, but I don't know how to get over there.
Yeah.
So right now, if things are making them money in the current sandbox they're in, why would they want to leave it? Okay. But what they're finding is it's getting harder and harder to compete against all the other, not just kids, but literally everybody, right? At that point, it's like everyone's digging in the sand, everyone's digging even more. So in this case, they're creating more content. It requires more work, more effort, more production, more people, more equipment, and it's getting unsustainable. And there's crazy people. This was funny. There's crazy people still going to that sandbox completely brand new and go, 5 to 10 shorts, easy, right?
Yeah.
No one will ever lasts.
Yeah. It reminds me of that scene. Have you guys seen Devil Wears Prada?
No,
Yes.
I haven't seen it.
Okay. So there's this scene, right? Anne Hathaway and Meryl Streep. Anne Hathaway is this character who's kind of like finds herself in the fashion industry, but kind of like looks down on it, thinks that it's like this thing that doesn't matter at all. And she eventually gets to Meryl Streep's character, who is like this, huge magnate. She's like the tastemaker of, the entire fashion industry, and they come to a head basically in this moment. And Anne Hathaway's character kind of slips up, and she's like trying to get in the good graces of Meryl Streep's character, and says something like, well, like this is all just like pointless anyway. Like this is just like, who cares about fashion basically. And Meryl Streep's character, like you can see her face change in that moment. And she looks at Anne Hathaway and says, you see that blue that you're wearing right now? Well, the reason you're wearing that blue is because 8 months ago, this person walked down this runway at this time because this designer chose to choose this color on the runway, and that's worked its way to this and came all the way down, and that's why you're wearing this. You're 8 months behind. That's all those creators.
Yes.
They are Anne Hathaway's character. And you
Yes.
can see Anne Hathaway's character in that moment change and realize, and slowly throughout the movie, understand the value of being to those sandboxes early. And I think that is kind of what you're getting at, is like, if you can find those things early, that's what Gary Vee's getting at too, by the way. If you can get there early, then you get to be part of that group who's there in 2008 when it was easy on YouTube. Well, everyone, it's only happening because people are showing up when it's hard.
So Gary did this. The reason he knew about Musical.ly wasn't because he's a genius and just like can open up thing. Actually, there is something that he still does to this day. He says you go to the App Store, whatever is being downloaded the most, that's like a good signal.
Of course.
But the second thing is, where do the kids play? And what was he doing in those early days when I interviewed him at his office? He was having Musical.ly stars in his office, and he was interviewing them or talking shop. He was one of the
That's smart.
first people to have the D'Amelio sisters
Really?
on a show.
That is
We're talking
crazy.
in 2015 and 16.
Wow.
Look at them. They're probably the most famous content creators in that space. I don't know what they're doing right now.
Because
but
they
he-
were so early to that sandbox.
So
to your point.
early.
And Gary understanding that went there just to,
Yeah, and I
understand
remember
from
them showing up because they were only, at the time, 14 and 15 years
Yeah.
old with their parents.
Yeah.
Their parents knew who Gary was.
Yeah.
So it's funny because another reason why people wouldn't go to that new sandbox, because it's like, oh, that's where the kids hang out.
Yeah. Like think about, TikTok is the perfect example of this. Everybody's like, I'm not downloading TikTok. That's where all the cringe videos of people dancing all the time are. And now literally every single person has TikTok downloaded on their phone.
Was that your thought in the beginning? Because like, especially you explaining yourself to be this person who can recognize those sandboxes, and like, what was it about like your native platform, YouTube, that gave you the confidence and like the foresight to stick with it despite like this shiny new sandbox essentially that kept you from like completely pivoting to that when it became popular?
Well, I was wrong at the very beginning. So who introduced me to YouTube in terms of making a channel and becoming a creator is my wife, Judy. And I laughed at the fact that she wanted to do this thing. She was watching YouTube for hours on end and then saw these other women doing beauty videos, makeup tutorials, hairdos, whatever. And she started a channel and I laughed. Okay. What's ironic about it is the way I found out about YouTube in the first place. Remember that youth center I used to work at? The kids in the computer center, we used to have these computer rooms, or like you'd use a computer at this youth center. We're watching breakdancing videos, and that was the first way I was exposed to YouTube. I just thought it was just a way to share what you were doing, never thinking that you would become a creator. We didn't even understand what that is.
Yeah.
So that was my lesson, because quickly, within probably 12 months, not only is she getting free products, she's starting to make money, she's getting brand deals. I was like, oh, dang. So forever, that's why even a few years later, when this new kid is like, hey, Facebook's dead, Instagram's where it's at, I was like, you know what? My old self was coming back. I was like, psh, what do you know, right? Because I'm a full-time creator, I should know everything. I was like, but he is this new generation. He is an early adopter, like me, and he was right. So every single time. So for me, it was a mistake I made, even though I had a mentor that told me to do this exact thing, and realizing I made the mistake. And then forever, I always looked for not only where the next generation was, where were the purists?
And so why didn't you jump over to TikTok then?
My old self came back, right?
Yeah, that was kind of my question, is like at the time, like that was the thing that the kids were paying attention to. It was that new thing that I feel like for a lot of people probably thought that it was completely taking over.
Okay, so now I'm talking about myself. This is kind of a long story, but I'll just tell it to you guys. Remember, I was on Musical.ly when Gary Vaynerchuk told me to be on Musical.ly. I uploaded video. So it wasn't like I was totally against it. But of course, I didn't keep going. I didn't keep uploading. During the pandemic, I was looking at TikTok thinking, oh my gosh, something's happening. Like there's these new cooking creators and food people, like
people
doing
in
their
your
thing.
niche. Yeah.
I was looking at it on my phone trying to get my account back, and that was one of the hurdles or whatever.
Yeah.
But again, it was also my old self saying, I'm gonna stay in my sandbox. There was a maturity though in terms of my decision making. That wasn't just me saying, oh, this ain't for me, or this is not cool, or whatever. It was also knowing I could have never been like this smart to like know I'd be this right, that my sandbox would become relevant again.
Yeah.
How did you have that? Like, what was it about?
You know what it was actually? It was Judy again. Judy didn't want to start something new. She had evolved, right? She went from beauty to lifestyle content to mommy content. She went from YouTube to Facebook to Instagram, right? Mm-hmm. But what happened was we also saw how if you're chasing the new sandbox, there's also detrimental consequences to that as well.
Yeah, you can't play in two sandboxes at once.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to really be committed.
Yeah.
For us, what was happening to us? We were literally having our fourth and fifth kid at the time, like TikTok was blowing up.
Yeah.
Like we had already had businesses, we have a team. So these are all normal things, all excuses. But we were also, whatever we were doing, was working. And this is the other thing too. Remember what I said about those innovators, purists, and early adopters? When everyone leaves, they keep doing the same thing if they stay, no matter if it's good or bad.
Yeah.
Right? As everyone's jumping ship, so everyone's leaving YouTube, right? Starting to do way more Instagram. At this point, TikTok, right? And then a lot of people even going to YouTube Shorts. Definitely vlogging was dead the way we kind of knew it, but we kept doing our own thing. That's why we were able to notice that new shift that was happening on YouTube, not only with vlogs, but with longer videos. Remember the story of me running to Judy with my computer, like, hey, there's a 60-minute video. This shouldn't be working. And then having like clear eyes versus if I was on TikTok doing what we're doing and we're spread thin, maybe I wouldn't have paid attention to it and realized what was happening. All I was seeing was a new sandbox being created right next to my sandbox. Okay, like
it's like somebody
right
built a sandbox
like,
inside your sandbox.
Yeah, it was like extend. It's like, who are these guys, right? Like they're not doing it the way we're doing it, right? And I knew that. It's funny. I've never even really said this. I knew that we were in a dying sandbox. But we were just at peace with it. It's like, hey, we're still able to provide for our kids. We're still doing well enough. This is already light years beyond anything we dreamt of, right? I thought YouTube was going to be a 12-month thing for me. You know, like just YouTube and that's it. I never thought Facebook, you know, we combined have almost 3 million followers. Instagram, we'd be able to do like 6 figures in brand deals and all these other things. So I was already at peace. So it's like, we're going to stay here no matter till the wheels fall off. Okay. We actually saw our views going down.
Yeah. Is there any other new social platform out that you can think that has really caught on? I can't even think of one that people have even begun talking about because TikTok has been so dominant.
The only thing I've seen is maybe like streaming platforms like Twitch or Kick.
I do feel like that there's some level at which that is true, but I think that, you know, we learned that lesson like with Clubhouse, which is that you can only tune in for so many hours of the day. And one of the big innovations of the internet is that you can tune in at any time and watch whatever content you want. So I think they're just inherent, you know, lines around those boxes, so to speak. And so what is the next thing? This is what you're talking about, is that extension to that box. It's YouTube again. I think this is the big like thing that we've discovered in the past year, which is that YouTube really feels like it is that next sandbox. But it's those construction workers coming out and they like took your sandbox and put it in the middle of a beach or something like that, and then connected your sandbox to the beach, and now suddenly you've got the whole ocean to play with. You know what I mean?
That's a good way to put it. It's like the sandbox opened up to a beach.
Yeah, and so now you're all there.
That beach is unlimited.
Exactly.
It's like discovering an ocean.
Yeah.
And there's tons of oceanfront property that hasn't been built on.
Exactly.
So one of the things that I've learned in the last year that I think is really significant that I just never paid attention to. So I always paid attention to content and platforms and what creators are doing. I just never paid attention to the device and the behaviors based off of that device. So you just mentioned it. You were watching on a desktop computer or a laptop on a browser, first off, okay? Set aside the behavior of all that. It was just that. And then you're starting to watch on an iPad, which is a little bit smaller, or the laptops get smaller. And then, of course, once it became realistic with internet getting faster, cell phone signal getting stronger, and the phones getting better, we're watching on the phone, right? Yeah. Even though it's not ideal to watch content, it was good enough. And as that phone went vertical in terms of content creation, hence Musical.ly, TikTok, Shorts, Reels, everything, right? Everything went. It's like you just said, even when you're watching proper YouTube videos, you kept your phone vertical. How many times? And you may be reading comments just because you don't want to turn it.
Yeah.
It's just a weird thing. So I didn't realize that until the TV stats came into play on the analytics and it started to creep up. And then this year, 2025, we talk about this a lot. TV is the number one device.
Yeah, on YouTube.
The device might be one of the biggest determining facts of how people watch content.
Seriously.
How people consume content, right? that
100%
no
agree.
one was really ever talking about it.
No.
Maybe all the engineers at YouTube
Yeah.
or the people in that space. Like this is where you're the one that
Yes.
kind of made me realize it, because when I started doing this new style of vlogging that's getting us more views and getting so many creators I coach get more views, I never thought about the device as being the thing.
It was the
to
platform.
influence that, right?
It was like TikTok or YouTube
Yeah.
or Instagram, right? It was the platform that people cared about.
I always just thought, hey, this is like where the cool kids are.
Yeah.
Not even me. I'm talking about the actual cool
No,
kids,
I
like
understand.
a Sam Solik and these ones doing 60-minute videos.
Yeah.
Not realizing, remember this a thing, not all sandboxes succeed.
Yeah.
There's been new platforms that just don't go anywhere.
In fact, most don't succeed.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
still pay attention to them, right? I mean, not all sandboxes go somewhere, right? Not all platforms do anything. Even if there's a new one, it doesn't mean the old one goes away. The difference now, though, is this device. I mean, I have this in the background for a reason.
Yeah, pull that thing out.
It's so big. It's so big. It's like what you said about the beach.
Yes.
A sandbox to a beach. We've never seen this.
Here's your sandbox.
Yeah.
There's your beach.
And so I always thought it was these cool kids. You are the one that actually, ironically, were the one that said this is the new wave of creators. Would you call
yeah.
it?
Well, there's there's
What's the term?
Oh, what is? Yeah, the new wave. Yeah.
The new wave
Yeah,
of
YouTube.
YouTube. The new wave of YouTube, okay? So they thought they're cool because their videos are getting so many views. And these are the new thing back then was, right? We're talking 2020 to like 2023 arguably, was to just do videos that weren't edited very much.
Yeah.
Well, what happens when you're allowed to put up a video that's not edited as much? Well, what's stopping you from doing a 20-minute video?
Yeah.
What's stopping you from doing a 30-minute video? All the while, just like me, they had no idea what was actually driving that.
Yeah.
And what was driving that was people were watching more content on the TV. This was the ultimate sandbox, though, because there was absolutely no competition, tons of demand.
Yeah.
So there was tons of people watching it. And the thing is, what do you want to watch on your TV? You definitely don't want to watch a TikTok.
Yeah.
You don't want to watch a 1-minute video. You don't even want to watch 3 and 5-minute, maybe even 10-minute videos. You'd rather watch what we used to watch in the 90s and 2000s. 30-minute show, hour-long special, 2-hour movies. So I think everyone's starting to realize this now. Different behavior, because it's a different device.
You guys know about Starlink. Yeah. Starlink,
Yes.
I think, is pretty popular.
Yeah.
It's the big satellite thing that Elon Musk owns that gives you,
Internet anywhere.
internet anywhere through little satellites.
Pretty
that are
fast
going.
too, by the way. I
It's-
got it
Oh,
on
really?
Hawaiian Airlines. Crazy fast.
I've heard really good things about it.
Well, you know what's crazy about Starlink too is, did you follow that? I mean, this is kind of a TikTok thing, but did you follow that sailing with Phoenix guy that sailed from
I did.
here to Hawaii? I mean, it's kind of like an afterthought, but that whole thing became possible, and the reason he became popular was essentially because of Starlink.
Yes, and that's exactly where I'm going with this, which is that the infrastructure, if you want to take one lesson, right, it is that the infrastructure enables these new frontiers. It creates literally the sandboxes. It literally creates the new sandboxes.
Yeah.
And the platforms, they know this. These people are really smart. They get this stuff, and they understand how to drive this innovation, right? And the predecessor to Starlink was an early experiment by Google, actually. I don't know if you guys know. Have you guys heard of this
Are you
before?
talking about the planes that fly over?
It's
and
not
keep
even a
internet?
plane.
Okay,
It was
it's a drone?
literally balloons.
Oh,
They
balloons.
filled up, like, I'm not joking. They filled up balloons with helium and put these things and flew them over Africa to try and get internet connection to Africa, to spread out the internet connection, to have more places for Google to land. It's
wow.
exactly what we experienced in the
Philippines.
Philippines with people having phones. It's exactly what Facebook did. Actually, literally Mark Zuckerberg, through royal decree, basically said, on Thursdays, everybody's going to go through a 2G connection on their phone at work because we want to make sure that Facebook works well in low bandwidth environments like the Philippines, right? They get this. And so understanding where that new infrastructure is, understanding the bigger world is kind of interesting. But you don't need to do that if you're following the people, right? Like you said, if you know where the tastemakers are, if you know where the youth is, if you're seeing where these little sandboxes are, and good proxies for all of those things are new platforms, and we're learning now, new devices as well. And I bring up the infrastructure thing and the device thing because from a computer science perspective, from like a tech world business perspective, people understand that that the device drives behavior. So when you talk about it, you're like, oh, these like programmers out there, maybe they're thinking about this type of thing. I guarantee you they're thinking about this type of thing. And YouTube just got lucky that it worked on the phone at all, right? TikTok was like destined to be the thing that was going to win on the phone.
Yeah.
And so look for new devices, look for new areas where people can go, and look for where like the youth and the tastemakers are, I think is sort of the lesson here. And I think that answers, hopefully, Cameron, why someone like the person we're talking about at the beginning of this would have some level of interest in YouTube, because YouTube is back, really is the lesson. And the reason YouTube is back is because there's a new device. And so I don't know, do you feel like that answers the question? I don't know if you have like big takeaways or anything.
Do you think that the short form platforms are paying attention to the devices? Because obviously, like with Instagram, TikTok, they clearly can't compete in that area.
Yeah, you say that, but literally a week and a half ago, first of all, yes, I know for a fact they are, because literally a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, there was some reporting from The Information where they said that literally TikTok and Instagram are making TV apps because they whipped their head around after, like 2 or 3 years trying to compete with YouTube on short form, literally, and said, oh, YouTube is like the only one positioned to win the streaming race on TV. And there's nobody who's even close to them, including some of the most well-funded and most successful like streaming companies like Netflix and media companies like Disney of all time. And they're like, okay, we'll make an app, but what are they going to do? There's nothing they can do about that. They don't have the content. So they do notice.
Obviously, YouTube has been a constant culturally through content creation in general. And I think that even if it's not like inherently the cause of how these platforms are changing, it seems as though a lot of these platforms, intentionally or not, always end up going more long form.
Yeah.
As a result of what's happening on YouTube as a platform and where people are consuming that content.
Yeah. Let me give you a point of comparison. And I think that this is probably the most instructive, which is that these companies aren't doing it out of the goodness of their heart. They're here to make money, right?
Yeah.
And short form content in all its forms has always been worse at making money than long form content. And it kind of makes intuitive sense why that would be. But there's a million different reasons for why. That doesn't mean it can't be lucrative, generally speaking, right? Especially on individual localized things for creators or even for the company as a whole. I mean, it'll mint billionaires, it'll mint millionaires and things like that. But comparatively, if you look at short form platforms en masse and long form platforms en masse, long form platforms tend to win the like long term race, believe it or not. The best comparison is Twitter. I talk about this all the time, but like I really feel like if you understand Twitter and the history of Twitter and how Twitter operates on like every level, at every scale, and every facet, you can predict about what is mostly going to happen to TikTok. Like it's going to be the same story that plays out for the most part. That's because text is just easier to do. So all the things happen in text on the internet before they do in video, because video is harder to do, right?
Well, you could say Twitter did to blogs what TikTok did to YouTube.
That's exactly right. But look what's happening now with Twitter, right? Famously, Mark Zuckerberg said about Twitter at the time that the people who invented Twitter crashed a clown car into a gold mine, which he saw as like, this is just a stupid thing and they just happen to make money because they crashed it into a gold mine, right? But what that kind of like misses is that Twitter was worse at making money. Nobody really ever made money on Twitter, yet all of the culture was there. There was like reporters and politicians and superstars. Everybody was on this same platform at a ton of cultural cachet and no way to monetize it, basically. Now, eventually they had ads, but they were famously never very profitable. Their investors were always pissed off at them constantly.
Number one thing I see about Twitter ad revenue, and I'm thinking about a guy named Roberto Blake, is he posts so much on Twitter now called X, and it's laughable, his checks.
Yes.
He puts them out there and he's like, I'm donating to this, or I'm going to give away this. I mean, like almost as a joke, but also because, for him, he's got bigger fish to fry.
Exactly.
So there's just bonus cash for him. But yeah, you're right. Never has it been reliable, has been really lucrative enough. And in fact, the people that do make enough money, they realize if I put this much effort into a video, no matter what the platform, I make 10x the income. So they're back to square one, just posting the way they did more organically to, talk Yeah, it's just never good.
And so the reason I would argue is that the reason these platforms are going longer form is because when you go longer form, it's easier to monetize against it, right? Who just happens to be perfectly positioned for that? YouTube. It's like crazy how, like, I don't know if you call it luck or like great leadership. Maybe they have some oracle in the background that they're telling them exactly what to do. But like they are perfectly positioned.
A lot
for
of
that.
luck. Okay, let's go back to Twitter though.
Yes.
What did Twitter try to do? Do longer videos. And remember,
And not even longer videos, but longer posts too.
And then Elon Musk famously said, "Hey, I'm going to be courting creators like a Mr. Beast."
Yes.
And Mr. Beast agreed. Okay, I'll put my videos on there.
Yes.
Let's see what you got. Okay. I think he even was like really public about his income or whatever.
Yeah.
You don't really hear anything. By the way, I deleted Twitter off my phone for like 10 minutes.
Congratulations.
So I don't know what's going on. All I know is it's definitely not part of the zeitgeist the way it was, and it's not where creators take content creation seriously.
No.
So you could say, and you know, we'll see, but TikTok probably accurately, like you said, will see the same fate, because you know what I always said is YouTube's downfall, but it's every platform's downfall when they try to copy somebody else at somebody else's game. And TikTok is starting to do the same thing
Yes.
that Twitter is doing.
Exactly.
They're trying to be something that they're not perfectly positioned for, literally, and also that viewers aren't looking for on there that someone else is doing. So just by chance. I mean, this is the thing about YouTube. Everything good that's happening to them is for two reasons. One, because they did have this support for creators in general. They were the ones that created the best environment, even if it was just because their infrastructure was good. And that pulled in a lot of creators. Part of that is Google AdSense.
Yes.
They were getting paid off of all the commercials, even if the split was 50-50, whatever, right? It's like 55-45, I don't know. The other part was just complete chance and luck.
I know.
It's becoming harder to find success on short form, and it's becoming much easier to find success on YouTube.
Yeah.
That would be my takeaway. And that because of the TV and the opportunity there, maybe people haven't even caught up to it yet. And people don't understand what is potentially there on YouTube yet in comparison to short form and the level of competition that's there. It's once people catch on, it's going to be a race to who can figure it out the fastest.
Yeah. I think not only have people not caught up, a lot of people haven't even caught on yet.
Yeah.
And one of the magical things about that person that you brought up at the very beginning of this conversation is that they tend to catch on to things early. In fact, they are the Meryl Streeps of the world, where they're like one of those tastemakers. Mm-hmm. And there's one other small thing, and then I want to give it to you, Bendy, to close us out, which is that the other thing that they told us when we asked them this question, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago, is that it's not just that it is an interesting opportunity or that it's a new sandbox. I don't think they would even necessarily articulate it in that manner. But that literally YouTube just has a bigger upside. It has a higher ceiling than short form does. Like they talked about their personal brand and the size of other brand deals that are opportunities. It's just an asset to them to have beyond the diversification. And like, that's not even talking about this TV thing. And I think that is a huge takeaway for creators as well.
Yeah, we try to use the television size in comparison to the phone to talk about the opportunity. But that's why the sandbox analogy and you bringing up the beachfront is so powerful, because we can't actually see the end of the beach. So TikTok sandbox got so big that Instagram, Facebook, they created Reels. That's a huge sandbox. YouTube Shorts is its own sandbox, right? And the old sandbox of YouTube was arguably bigger than all of those put together. But when I said, hey, there's this other sandbox, and then you said, actually, it's not a sandbox, it's a beach.
Yeah.
I mean, live streaming is a good example.
Yeah.
Like in real life streamers who are the biggest influencers right now. Okay, Kai Sennett, I Show Speed, because the length of the videos being kind of endless, we have no clue how big these new creators in this new, I guess, like everlasting sandbox could be. And that's why right now, not only have I started putting out content, starting this podcast, reach out to creators. I'm telling everybody, especially short form creators, like, hey, this sandbox, I guess now I'm like, hey, my sandbox has no limit to it.
Yeah.
There's endless gold that I know is there. You just have to go and find it. Versus yours, it's getting harder to dig for. There's way more people in that sandbox. And frankly, it's kind of a shitty place to be because there is caps. And there's a lot of creators, innovators, or people that are early adopters seeing this opportunity. They're coming over here. And actually, for me, it's 2008 all over again. When Judy finally convinced me, and she didn't say this verbally, it was just from her actions, results, and the success. And I thought, hey, we're going all in. I remember
It was
saying,
undeniable.
whatever you need. I said these exact words, whatever you need, equipment, setup, I will learn anything. I remember Googling how to get the right temperature on lights because I was mixing white light with warm orange lights. And that's how I described it, grabbing different things. I feel that same way right now about what's happening in 2025. That's what I would say from this. So to your original question, Cameron, you said, what would make them motivated? I said, they not until they hear this, until they realize the significance. And the sandbox versus the beachfront is the easiest way to put it. And if you know that, guess what? It's just better on the beach versus sandbox. I remember the sandbox in my elementary school was miserable, okay? Yeah. I want to go to the beach. And I did, funny enough. I lived in San Diego. We went every single weekend. I'm telling you, it's way more beautiful. And there's things that is going to blow everybody's minds. And I do believe if I was betting money, and I'll bet on it, I'm really betting my business and my life on it right now, that the opportunity here with longer form content is going to be 1,000x better than anything short form is even capable of doing.
Yeah.